What's up, y'all? Now this is going to be my second Blender walkthrough, and I'm going to be using models from my animated short film. If you haven't seen it, you can check it out here. I'm not going to be working too much with the modeling tools. I'm going to try to work with some lights and try to get some pretty nice renders out of this little session I got here. All right, so let's get right into it. Now, what I'm going to be doing is working to export my model because I still have it as a Maya binary file. Now, this is the interior of the mothership that I made. This model here is made up of a bunch of pieces, so I'm going to work to combine everything. Now, right now I'm going through the layers, and I'm trying to attach everything to one layer so that I can have the model and only the model and not the lights that are attached. So I'm going to link them to other layers. And there are also other cameras in the scene. And I'm going to try to make sure that I only export the model itself. So I'm going to delete the extra shaders because they aren't compatible with Blender. I'm going to assign a new base shader or material. And then when I open up Blender, I'm going to just replace it. I merged everything, I grouped it all, and then I'm going to export. So I'm exporting selection. I'm saving it as an OBJ file because that's the safest option. Of course, I'm not going to save it because I kind of destroyed my scene. Blender opens up so quickly, it's crazy. I can't get used to that. So I imported the model. It looks pretty bland, but I don't have any light set up or anything. And right now it's invisible in the render view. I guess that's because the shader itself is incompatible. Now in the sculpting menu, it looks completely fine. So right now I selected everything, I grouped it, and I'm going to just mess with the shader. And I had to open the eevee renderer just to see how it's going to look. Wow, this looks nice, only with one material as well. I got one light here. I think this is the default light that comes in the scene. I'm going to place it in the middle so I can get some balanced shadows. And I'm going to add another light. Now this is a sunlight, so I need it to come from outside. Now, for some reason, the light intensity is pretty off, but I'm going to see what I can do with it. Now I'm changing the light a little bit just to see what happens, but I'm going to stick to this sunlight. So right now I'm just moving the light. All right, for some reason in the eevee render, the light intensity is crazy. But when I go back to cycles, it doesn't seem to really work all that well. So yeah, anyway, I'm moving the light. The scene looks nice in eevee. And this is mostly going to be just like a render walkthrough. I'm going to see what I can get out of this model I have here. So I'm going through, I'm checking for some extra, I need some environment light, and I don't know where to get it from. Maybe it's the renderer. So right now I'm Googling it because Google seems to have all the answers. So I just switched on this ambient light for eevee. For some reason, my materials became invisible. So I'm rendering it now. So I guess the real-time renderer for cycles just stopped, which is weird, but all right. I'm trying to find out how to move this camera because I moved it before, but there was an extra menu that was there on the side that allowed me to lock the camera. And I can't seem to find this extra menu. Now, it wasn't really a tab, it was it was a whole menu bar on the side, but for some reason it's not here anymore. Now, as you can probably tell, I'm still an amateur. And right now I'm just going through menus and I'm trying to basically get more familiar with the interface. And I don't really care to learn that much about the shortcuts because that can come later. I need to know where everything is, and then when I want to do something with the shortcuts, then that's when I would try to look it up and try to see what to press in order to get a certain function that I will pull out of some menu somewhere. Anyway, that's just about it for the intermission. Let's get right back to it. And I'm still going through to figure this out. It just boggles my mind how I just can't seem to figure this one out. when I did it before. I did it in my last. Wow, I'm sick. I did it in my last walkthrough, and I just can't seem to get it now because my numpad is different. So I'm going to need to find, the other way to do it. There's always some other way to do it, unless you just got a bad program. But generally, there should be more than one way to get this done. So I'm going to manually do it this way. Anyway, once I set the position right, then I can work on rendering because I do like how the scene looks. I do like how Cycles renders out its images. So right now I got it into position. I'm going to render. Now I just pulled something out of eevee and it looked all right. I mean, I guess it looks like what it looks like in the viewport, but I want something official, with ray tracing and everything. And so far, this image is coming along pretty nicely. Now I need more light in the scene. And I'm just bumping up the intensity and everything. I don't want to mess with the samples too much because it's not really going to affect the lighting. Now I brought up some of the exposure. I'm messing with Cycles, the settings that are available to me through Cycles. So that's where it is. Okay, so the viewport display, wow. I brought up the exposure as well, so dang, okay. Wow, this looks like an ambient occlusion pass. Oh wait, I did check it, right? I did check the ambient occlusion dial. So, okay, the ambient occlusion is amazing. It usually takes me a while to get some nice ambient occlusion in Maya. I have to really go in and work with some settings pretty heavily to get something like this. Now I know it's a little too bright, but you can kind of adjust everything in post. At least you got the values there, the whites and the blacks, a higher percentage of whites. Wait, why does it sound like really weird? So anyway, I got the ambient occlusion pass, so I'm going to save it as an ambient occlusion image, and then I'm going to turn off ambient occlusion. Now I'm getting something that is all right, actually. Now there's a lot of grain, and I'm going to have to figure out exactly how to fix that. Because if you got too much grain, it's really hard to manually remove the grain in something like Photoshop. So anyway, what I'm going to do is bring down the exposure. I think the exposure is what's bringing in all that light and all that grain too. But before that, I'm just going to go through and change the base color of everything in this interior. And then also I'm going to change some of the materials just a little bit. But I'm going to just save this out because it's a pretty good render. But then now I'm going to mess with the exposure to balance everything out, Now this render is looking okay. It looks pretty nice. But the sample rate is pretty low. So I'm going to bring up the samples. I'm just going to double it. I know the render is probably going to take twice as long to render now. But it's all right. For some reason, I can't get the material for this piece right here to render. But anyway, I'm just going to fix it in post because this scene right here is very symmetrical. So I'll just copy the little shell from one side to the other. Okay, now this render is looking better, but it's taking a little bit longer to finish. But I like it. I like how this is coming out. Okay, now that the render is finished, I'm going to save this out and bring it into Photoshop and see what I can do with the layers because I have several render passes, I guess you can call it. I mean, they were just several versions of the same render. And then what I'm going to do is bring in the picture, set it to lighten, maybe screen. Okay. Now I'll put in some blur because I don't want the grain from the other image to move on to the main image. So the opacity is going all the way down to 13. So I need some depth. I need like some Z depth. I think I rendered something like this for my short film. A shot very similar to this. Yeah, there it is. Now the character is in it, but I'm going to just remove him and see if I can help put in some fake depth, So I'm going to blur this out like crazy. And I'm going to delete the rest of it. And it's going to work as some fog, And Yeah, bring down the opacity. Yeah. I don't know, it looks horrible still. I guess the effect can be a little bit more subtle. Now I can bring the opacity down even more. But it doesn't really seem that convincing. If I had more time with this, if I was able to render actual, render layers, then I would probably have a different result. Now I'm going to be messing with the grain, so I'm going to manually blur out some of the areas that are just very obviously grainy. I couldn't find the denoiser for cycles. Maybe it's not there, but I'm sure it's there. I'm sure it's there because there are denoisers like everywhere. I think I even could get one here in Photoshop. Now I'm not certain of this, so I'm not gonna go around and look, but I'm just gonna hurry up and wrap this picture up. I'll add in some contrast. Now it needs some color, so I'm gonna give it like this bluish tint because it kind of suits the vibe that I got here. Technology and everything. Maybe bring in some vibrance, take out the saturation, bring it down a little bit. What else can I do? Now I'm gonna Google some smoke because this is like my go-to effect, really, just to incorporate something to enhance the image, especially CG images. CG images always need like an element that is real, so that it can help sell the environment, so you have to put in some atmosphere. Also, it makes the image look more interesting. So I'm going to mess with some of the lighting so that one side can be more lit than the other, and then that way it can look a little bit unbalanced, because something that is too balanced looks incredibly fake. But if you add just a little bit of error, then it will help sell the environment a lot better. Now here's full screen. And that is it. Okay, that's it. That was a pretty interesting experience. And the models, I'm pretty glad that they transferred over into Blender pretty smoothly. I gotta say that I'm pretty excited for the release, because when it actually comes out, I'll be able to use the software at least well enough to get what I need done. And then my skills can kind of build afterwards. So that's just about it for this video. If you guys have any thoughts, leave them down below, and I'll be back with some more. Bye.